Hey guys, welcome to Mondays with Mike. It's my weekly stream where we get a chance to talk about things that are happening in the world of science and the world of meteorology. And this is not, by the way, per se a weather forecast, because I know I was looking at some of the comments from last week and people were saying, well, Mike, just tell me if it's going to rain or not. Get on with it. Why are you wasting time? And someone even said, oh, he's stalling because they're waiting for the script or something like that. I'm like, I'm recording this on my phone, I don't have a teleprompter. Anyway, so this isn't the weather forecast per se for today, but we are going to talk about the forecast for this week because it is going to be another week of extreme heat in Texas. It's going to be another week where all you hear about is the electrical grid and whether or not we're going to, have rolling blackouts and all of that kind of thing, because we're going to have, once again, highs between 100 and 108 really routinely around the state of Texas. The first thing I wanted to talk about was something you may have noticed in the sky this past weekend, and you may still notice it out there today, and that is dust. This is Saharan dust, and it's amazing how far this can travel. I mean, we're talking about many, many thousands of miles away, way off to our east over in northern Africa, where, well, we have a giant desert over there. It gets very dusty, and if there is a dust storm, that dust can get carried into the upper parts of the atmosphere and then move across the Atlantic, actually from east to west, and arrive here. Now, I was asking some of my folks on Facebook to see if they could take a picture of the sunset, because when we have dust, you can also refer to it, the other name for it is an atmospheric aerosol. And depending on how large the dust particles are, if they're very small, then they can very often result in a reddish sunrise, much more red in sunrise and sunset. Now, we know that whenever the sun goes down, when it gets low to the horizon, it tends to look sort of orange, yellow, orange, red anyway. And that has to do with what's called Rayleigh scattering, which is where the molecules of air in the atmosphere preferentially scatter blue light, which is why the sky is blue. But when the sun is low like this, it has to travel through much more of the atmosphere. So it's hitting the atmosphere at that angle, instead of on top. So if it's on top, it's really only passing through, as far as the thickest part of the atmosphere, maybe 10 kilometers, 12 kilometers. When it's coming through on the side, it's coming through hundreds of kilometers of air. And so it gets, the blues scatter, and then you work your way right through the colors of the rainbow until you get to yellow, orange, and red. So when you have dust, if the dust particles are very, very small, then the particles of dust are actually close to the wavelengths of light. And so that can cause even more of that type of scattering and make it look red. And in this case, well, the monitors each show it a little bit different, but Seth in the Freeport area, this is down here along coastal sections of Matagorda County, and Seth caught this beautiful sunset. And you'll be able to see this most likely, I think, today as well, although it may be dissipating a little bit as far as the intensity, the amount of dust that's out there in our atmosphere. So this is one of the big weather stories for the week. It's kind of cool to see, sometimes it can be, pretty, but at the same time, it's like, what's going on here, right? All right, the week ahead, we have a heat dome that is going to be returning. So yesterday, Sunday, upper 90s, low 100s. For the rest of this week, we had lots of temperatures that were going to have lots of temperatures that are in the low 100s across the Lone Star State. Here's a look at the plume of dust. So this is actually tracked by NASA, and this is using, unlike what we would call a dynamical model, which is really tracking little discrete parts of the atmosphere to see where it's going to rain and things like that. My camera almost fell here. What we need for this really is just like a stream flow kind of thing. I mean, you just need to see, well, how are the winds blowing in these levels of the atmosphere. So anyway, this gives us a pretty good idea of where the dust plume is going to be as we head into Monday and Tuesday. And it does look like it's going to move inland and get it just a little bit less intense. So you may still notice it, but not quite as badly as we did this past weekend. And then we could also take a look at what's happening here over the Atlantic Ocean. And what you'll see is that when you go over here to Africa, the bright colors indicate a very high density of those atmospheric aerosols or dust. And then they waft here across the Atlantic. Now it's interesting because not only do we notice it in the air as haze, but it also is very closely correlated with lower hurricane activity. So usually when we have a lot of dust across the Atlantic, it tends to inhibit the formation of hurricanes, tropical storms. Now we're getting near the later part of July. When we get into August and September, well, that's the season that we call the Cape Verde season, named for these islands there, which are Portuguese. I know a lot of people will say Cape Verde, which of course does mean green in Spanish, but these are the Cabo Verde Islands. So I call them Cape Verde. Some people call them Cape Verde. Either way, I don't think anybody's going to get mad at you, or either way, everybody will get mad at you. I don't know. But anyway, this is the part of the ocean, what's called the main development region of the Atlantic as we head into August and September in the Cape Verde season. Now, as long as we see things staying dusty like this, then it's going to be hard for storms to develop. When and if the dust does clear out, then you may have a big flurry of activity, and it might not happen until August or September. It still looks like it's going to be a very busy season. Of course, we don't want to take our eyes off the Gulf of Mexico either. These are the latest water temperatures, and they're all right around 85, 86, 87. So very warm water temperatures out there in the Gulf. Warm water surface temperatures tend to mean that there's more available energy for any storm that would pop up. That's what fuels tropical systems, is the warm, humid air that's at the surface rises and it condenses into rain, as you probably know, condenses into raindrops. And when the humid air switches phases from gas to liquid, there's a release of what is called latent heat. And that's really what's the energy of the storm, what fuels the storm. So, by the way, it's another reason why ice, takes a long time to melt. You would think you put ice in water and it would just melt right away, but it doesn't. It takes a lot of heat, has to absorb a lot of heat to transfer from the solid form to the liquid form. Anytime there's a phase change, it either needs to absorb a lot of heat or release heat. So anyway, it's kind of neat. So that's what's happening out there water temperature wise. And I also wanted to talk about the drought. I know we've been talking about this every week, right? So this is probably the worst widespread drought in Texas that we've seen in 11 years, since 2011. Now, thus far, it's not quite as bad as it was in 2011, but it's starting to get close. So right now we have 99% of the state of Texas is in one of these categories, either abnormally dry or worse. And then it's the vast majority of the state, it's something like 90%, 89 or 90% is considered to be in a moderate drought or worse. And then about half the state here, 52%, is classified as extreme or exceptional. So the two highest categories of drought, more than half the state. There are going to start to be some problems. We've already had problems. We've heard a lot of problems from central Texas, from the Colorado River, and from the lakes that are along that river, like Lake Buchanan, Lake Travis. They're running very low. So far, we haven't had any major problems with like Lake Houston, Lake Conroe, and those, but that doesn't mean it's not going to be that way. And it may become more of a concern. Hopefully we don't have to undergo any sort of water restrictions here in our part of Texas, but I imagine it's going to become more of a concern out around that I-35 corridor and Hill Country area, because they really are going to be hurting for water here in a very short amount of time. As far as what's happening here locally, the new maps that were released this last Thursday show that we actually have an area here now, which is part of Austin County, Colorado County, and Wharton County, that is under that exceptional drought, the worst of the worst. A lot of agriculture out there. So they grow rice out there, along with some other crops, but I know there's a lot of rice that grows out there, especially in Colorado County. And so what that means is you either lose your crop or you have to heavily irrigate. And so that some farmers have access to irrigation, some don't. And if they don't, then you're not going to be able to grow your rice very well. So that is one of the local issues, and not to mention the fact that all of our counties are under burn bans right now too. So you're prohibited from doing any outdoor burning. Most counties in Texas are under burn bans. So what about the week ahead? What is the rainfall looking like? Well, this behind me is the GFS computer model. This is the American model, the Global Forecast System model, and it's showing us rainfall through the next 7 days. So basically today all the way through this upcoming weekend, and you'll see not much at all. Really not much at all. You have high pressure, and so all the rain is going to rotate around the outside of that. You have rain coming up here into parts of Arizona and New Mexico. That's called the monsoon flow. That's where they get most of their rain. And then here, you're going to have these, what they call ridge riding thunderstorms, or ring of fire thunderstorms, which could bring some severe weather to the southeast U.S., but we're just going to stay high and dry. So when we get the new drought monitor maps that come out this Thursday, it is going to be worse. That drought is going to spread. It's going to become more severe, both here locally and across the state of Texas. And so definitely not a good thing. All right, what about the extended forecast? Is there any, good news there? Well, so we know all of this week, as I showed you in the 7-day, we're going to be hot. I mean, we're looking for 100 degrees every day, give or take. Next week, so this is July 23rd to the 27th. So this takes us from this upcoming weekend through next week. Once again, the highest probability for above average temperatures is in Oklahoma and in Kansas, but just about all of Texas is here in the above average category. So the odds are we're going to have hotter than normal conditions here for at least the next 2 weeks. And I know it's always hot in Houston in the summer. Yes, of course it is. But our average high temperature is about 95, and we're looking for about 100. Last year, we had 0 100-degree days. We're looking to probably have something like 20, 25 or so as we head toward the end of July and beginning of August, and then maybe more on the way. By the way, in 2011, we had 46 100-degree days. Finally, I wanted to leave you with this. For this afternoon and tomorrow afternoon, so we're talking about Monday and Tuesday of this week, we're looking for a very dangerous situation in Europe. The all-time hottest temperature recorded in the UK is 101.7 degrees Fahrenheit. And we're looking to get up to at least 100 in London on Monday. So on today. So between Monday and Tuesday, they're ahead of us, obviously, by a lot of hours. So today, as you're watching this, if you're watching it live, they've already hit their high for the day. May get even hotter tomorrow. So we're looking for the potential for some all-time record-breaking heat across the UK. And also here in France, they're looking for high temperatures very routinely, 105, 107, coming up on Monday and Tuesday. So when you think about how hot it is here and how hot it is, in Austin and in Dallas and all these places that are under excessive heat warnings, they've declared a heat emergency because a lot of people there don't have air conditioning. I mean, look, if you live in England, it doesn't get hot there very often at all. Most of the time, being an island, they are surrounded by cool water, and it has a moderating effect on their temperatures. So it keeps them from getting too freezing cold in the winter, but it also prevents them from getting too hot in the summer most of the time. So this is a real shock to get up to 100 degrees. And, you've got, like I said, people don't have air conditioning, and maybe people are elderly, and they're just, it's going to be a tough deal over there for them for the beginning of this week. And that leaves me with my final thought, actually, which is, well, two final thoughts. One final thought is about climate change. And how much do you think that we, as TV weather people, should talk about it? I don't talk about it much because in the context of my daily weather forecast, I just haven't found a way to, or a reason at this point to mix it into my 60-second weather forecast, or, you know, my minute and 30 to let you know what the weather's going to be today and tomorrow. Not a ton, you know, of time to really get into climate change. And I also feel like there are a lot of other people out there who are probably going to be much more effective advocates. And finally, you know, I don't, it's a controversial topic, but not for the reason that a lot of people think. Yes, there are going to be some people who say climate change is a hoax and all of this stuff, and I don't believe that. It is real. The question, though, is what we do about it, and that's where the problem is. That's where the hard argument is. Because it's very easy to insult someone online and say, oh, well, you're dumb because you don't believe in climate change or whatever. And everybody's entitled to their opinion. But the question is always, what do we do about it? And there are different schools of thought that involve, you know, more government control, less government control, more global control, you know, over individual sovereign states versus more individual responsibility. And I don't have the answer. And so that's why I'm more comfortable leaving that kind of discussion to a different forum than the weather report on the morning news. That's just me. But I'd like to hear from you, if you have any opinions, politely, about whether or not you think that's right. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't have all the answers. If I did, you know, I would have, you know, called the president and told him what to do. The last thing is internet trolls. I don't understand this trolling. I really don't. I mean, I do this every week. We all have weekly segments that we do, okay? It's an extra thing that we have to do. It is extra work, and I'm not complaining about it at all. I enjoy doing it. But I'm saying this is something that I'm providing to you, if you're interested, for educational purposes, for people who are really into weather, and of course for you to leave me any questions if you might have it. But when I go to the comment section and look for questions, what I see are some very, very rude comments. And I don't get it. I really don't. I mean, like, you're going to go on YouTube and just talk about, like, I don't even want to dignify the things that some people said, but it's just so stupid. So if you post this ridiculous things like this, I think you have to look in the mirror and say, what is wrong with me, you know? Why am I going on YouTube and writing nasty things about the weatherman? Anyway, and by the way, women get it 100 times worse, and I know that. The ladies that work in TV news get it 100 times worse. So whatever I'm complaining about, they get way more frequently. It's way more personal. It's way meaner. You know, if somebody wants to talk about my hair or my face or my ethnicity or whatever, which they do, you know, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. But, you know, it's just mean. It's just really mean. So let's be better. And I'm not talking to all of you. I'm talking to just that one couple people right there. Anyway, that'll do it for Mondays with Mike. I hope you like this sports jacket. I only wear this like once a year. And so, yeah. You won't have to see it very often, but I decided to break it out. Hey, thanks for watching Mondays with Mike. Please leave me some questions below. So if you're watching this on the live stream, or if you're watching this on Facebook or watching this on YouTube, I would love to hear your questions, because that would give me material. It would give me something really interesting to talk about that you might be interested in hearing more about. You know, I've been a meteorologist for 23 years, over 23 years. You know, I've got a degree, I've got the certifications, I've got, you know, lots of experience with this stuff, and I might be able to answer some good questions for you. Maybe your kids have a question, maybe you have a question. So anyway, let me know. Hey, thanks for watching us, and thanks for watching me, and I will see you next week.